Hi boys and girls, how are you today? Today's read aloud is going to be read by me, and we are going to continue reading our book, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. If you remember when we left off, they were walking down a long corridor past different rooms such as the fizzy lifting drinks, the lickable wallpaper room. Well, the room that they're going to go into today is called Square Candies That Look Round. How can a square candy look round? I guess we'll have to read and find out. Chapter 23, Square Candies That Look Round. Everybody stopped and crowded the door. The top half of the door was made of glass. Grandpa Joe lifted Charlie up so that he could get a better view, and looking in, Charlie saw a long table, and on the table were rows and rows of small white square-shaped candies. The candies looked very much like square sugar lumps, except that each of them had a funny little pink face painted on them. At one end of the table, a number of Oompa Loompas were busily painting more faces on more candies. "There you are," cried Mr. Wonka, "square candies that look round." "They don't look round to me," said Mike TV. "They look square," said Veruca Salt. "They look completely square." "But they are square," said Mr. Wonka. "I never said that they weren't." "You said they were round," said Veruca. "I never said anything of the sort," said Mr. Wonka. "I said they looked round." "But they don't look round," said Veruca Salt. "They look square." "They look round," insisted Mr. Wonka. "They most certainly do not," cried Veruca Salt. "Veruca, darling," said Mrs. Salt, "pay no attention to Mr. Wonka. He is lying to you." "My dear old fish," said Mr. Wonka, "go and boil your head." "How dare you speak to me like that?" shouted Mrs. Salt. "Oh, do be quiet," said Mr. Wonka. "Now watch this." He took a key from his pocket and unlocked the door and flung it open. Suddenly, at the sound of the door opening, all the rows and rows of little square candies quickly looked round to see who was coming in. The tiny faces actually turned toward the door and stared at Mr. Wonka. "There you are," he cried triumphantly. "They're looking round." There was no argument about it. They are square candies that look round. "By golly, he's right," said Grandpa Joe. "Come on," said Mr. Wonka, starting off down the corridor. "On we go. We mustn't dawdle." He turned right. They came to a long flight of stairs. Mr. Wonka slid down the banister. The three children did the same. Mrs. Salt and Mrs. TV, the only women now left in the party, were getting very out of breath. Mrs. Salt was a great large creature with short legs, and she was blowing like a rhinoceros. "This way," cried Mr. Wonka, turning left at the bottom of the stairs. "Go slower," panted Mrs. Salt. "Impossible," said Mr. Wonka. We would never get there in time, if I did." "Get where?" asked Veruca Salt. "Never you mind," said Mr. Wonka. "You just wait and see." And that is the end of chapter 23. So, the square candies did look round. They looked around. That Mr. Wonka, he is a trickster. Boys and girls, we will read the next chapter, Veruca in the Nut Room, when we have our next read aloud. Thanks for joining me. See you soon. Bye-bye.